When Jenna got back from her trip to Africa, she looked like someone who'd just been let out of a cage. Not that we had a bad life, far from it, but there was a new energy about her. She had this wild spark in her eyes, this bounce in her step, like she had found some secret that the rest of us missed. At first, I thought it was just the safari talking. I mean, if you spend 2 weeks riding around in jeeps and watching lions take down gazelles, maybe you come back with a little extra fire. I could handle that. What I didn't expect were the new friends she brought back with her. It started with little things. Jenna mentioning the girls Maddie, Chelsea, and Brielle, women I'd never heard of before. She said they were from all over New York, Miami, even San Diego, and they had connected over the safari. Jenna laughed it off, called them her tribe, said they were planning another trip together. Where to this time? I asked one night, half joking as she tapped away on her phone at dinner. She flashed me a smile without looking up. Just a little weekend getaway. Girls only. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't you just get back? She laughed. You don't understand. After everything, it just feels good to be around women who get it. I didn't press. I figured it was healthy. New friends. New experiences. Better than sitting around in yoga pants, complaining about life. But the trips kept happening. Miami, Cancun, Scottsdale. Always somewhere sunny, always somewhere far, always just the girls. And when she wasn't traveling, she was heading out to these strange, ladies-only events in town. Wine nights, private dinners, secret locations. Always dressed up, always in heels, always a little too eager. One evening she stood by the door, checking her makeup in the mirror. Tight black dress, glossy lips, perfume so strong it made my head spin. Big night? I asked, trying to keep it casual. She winked. Girls' empowerment night. Don't wait up. I watched her leave, my gut twisting tighter than I wanted to admit. It wasn't just the frequency. It was the way she acted afterward, like she'd come back from another planet. Giddy, flushed, sometimes a little too tired to even talk. And then there were the little details. A second phone charger I didn't recognize. Receipts for spa treatments and hotel bars in towns she wasn't supposed to be anywhere near. New lingerie that she never wore at home. Still, I held my tongue. Because the truth is, you don't want to believe it. You want to believe the person you married is who you thought they were. You want to believe that if you love them enough, work hard enough, trust deep enough, everything else will hold. But something was cracking. I could feel it. The final straw, the thing that pulled the last blindfold off my eyes, came 2 months after her Africa trip. I was flipping through the mail when I found a postcard. No envelope. Just a photo of a beach, some palm trees. No big deal. But the handwriting caught me cold. Best week of my life. Love, Jenna. Except it wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Brielle, a woman I'd never met. And under Jenna's name, in a different handwriting, someone had scribbled, "Missed your crazy self already. Babe, see you at the next party." No stamp, no postmark. Someone must have dropped it off accidentally. I stood there, the postcard trembling in my hand, the air buzzing in my ears. Party. Not empowerment night. Not girls' dinner. Party. Somewhere deep down, I knew whatever was happening wasn't innocent. Not anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed beside Jenna, staring at the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing, wondering who she really was when she walked out that door with her new friends, and wondering how long I'd been living with a stranger. But if there's one thing life had taught me, it's this. You don't walk into a gunfight empty-handed. If Jenna had secrets, I was going to uncover them, quietly, carefully, without tipping my hand. Because when the truth came out, and I knew it would, I wanted to be ready, and I wasn't planning to lose. It didn't take long after that postcard for things to get even weirder. 2 weeks later, Jenna mentioned a new event, some invitation-only retreat in Palm Springs. No details, no flyers, no website, just a text from Maddie with an address and a date. It's supposed to be super exclusive, Jenna said, grinning as she packed a suitcase on a Wednesday night. No men allowed, total safe space, female empowerment stuff, you know? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Funny, last I checked, empowerment didn't require 5-inch stilettos and a bottle of Patron. She rolled her eyes. You wouldn't understand. It's a vibe. Yeah, it was a vibe, all right. One that stank. But I kept my mouth shut. No accusations. Not yet. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye with a lipstick print on my cheek and hopped into a black SUV with Chelsea and Maddie, laughing like teenagers ditching school. I watched the car disappear down the street, this gnawing, hollow feeling growing inside me. I didn't hear from her for the next 48 hours. No goodnight texts. No check-ins. Just radio silence. When she finally came home Sunday night, she looked wrecked, exhausted. Smudged mascara, messy hair, the faint trace of a hickey on her collarbone she didn't even bother hiding. Long weekend? I asked, tossing the question out like a grenade. She yawned, stretched, and shrugged. So much yoga. I think my body's broken. Yoga. Right. I bit down hard on the million things I wanted to say and just nodded. 2 days later, the cracks started showing. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went upstairs to shower. That alone was weird. Lately she clung to that thing like it was surgically attached. The screen lit up. Maddie, you girls were wild. Can't believe what happened in the VIP tent. My pulse quickened. I glanced upstairs. Shower still running. Another message popped in. Brielle, OMG Maddie, dying, can't wait for Miami. Boys will never know what hit them. Boys, plural, VIP tent. My stomach flipped. I knew better than to snoop, but leaving that phone untouched felt like standing next to a burning building and refusing to yell fire. I swiped the notifications away and let the phone sit there. I wasn't stupid. If I confronted her with half-baked suspicions and out-of-context messages, she'd just gaslight me into oblivion. No, I needed more. Later that night, Jenna curled up next to me on the couch, acting like nothing was wrong, her laughter a little too high, her touch a little too fake. She even showed me a few pictures from the retreat, scenic shots of a fancy resort, girls posing with yoga mats and green smoothies. Not a single man in sight. It was almost convincing. Almost. Until I noticed one detail she missed. In the background of one of her smiling selfies, blurred but unmistakable, a man in a suit carrying 2 champagne glasses. Funny. I thought it was a no-men event. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, nodded, and filed it away. The next few days, Jenna started preparing for her next trip. Miami this time. Another healing retreat. Another secret location. Another polished excuse. Meanwhile, at work, I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying those texts, that blurry man in the photo, her new perfume that wasn't the one I used to buy for her. One night, I sat in the living room after she went to bed, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Jenna from 2 years ago. No heavy makeup, no designer clothes, no fake laughs. Just her. Real. Warm. Mine. I didn't know who the woman sleeping upstairs was anymore. And honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. The next morning, right as I was pulling into work, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Curious, I answered. Hey, it's Kevin. I blinked, confused. Kevin, that was Maddie's husband, right? We'd maybe spoken twice, both times awkwardly. Yeah, what's up? I said. There was a pause on the other end. Heavy. Nervous. I know this is weird, Kevin said, voice low. But we need to meet. Soon. Face to face. My gut twisted into a knot. Is this about the girls? I asked, already knowing the answer. Another pause. Then a shaky breath. Yeah, Kevin said. It's bad, man. Real bad. We met at a little diner off the highway, the kind of place where no one asked too many questions and the coffee tasted like burnt rubber. Kevin was already there when I walked in, hunched over his cup, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He kept fidgeting, checking the door, like he was scared someone would recognize him. I slid into the booth across from him. All right, I said. Let's hear it. He took a deep breath, rubbed his hands together like he was trying to warm them up. First, man, I'm sorry you're about to hear this. I wish it wasn't me telling you. Just say it, I said, keeping my voice even. He nodded. I was darting around again. You know all those girls-only trips? The retreats, the empowerment stuff? Yeah. He leaned closer, voice low. It's not what they say it is. Not even close. I felt the muscles in my jaw tighten. Then what is it? Kevin hesitated, like he was weighing how much to tell me. Let's just say, it's not about yoga and spa days. It's more about meeting certain people. In private. Very private. I stared at him. What kind of people? Men, he said bluntly. Lots of them. The words hung between us like smoke. They call it networking, he added with a bitter laugh. But it's not business cards they're exchanging. I sat back, feeling the weight of it sink in. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that Jenna would never, but deep down, I knew. Kevin pushed something across the table, a crumpled piece of paper, like he didn't even want to touch it. I unfolded it. A guest list, handwritten names. Maddie, Chelsea, Brielle. In there, clear as day, Jenna, Palm Springs, Miami, Cancun. Different dates, different events. How do you know all this? I asked, my voice rough. My wife got sick, Kevin said quietly. Caught something on one of those trips. Something serious. Doctor said it didn't just come from sharing a drink. He stared at the table, his face pale. That's when she broke down and told me everything. My hands clenched into fists under the table. Kevin shook his head. I'm not trying to wreck your life, man. But if it was me, I'd want someone to warn me. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah, thanks. Kevin stood up, tossing a 20 on the table. Get tested, brother, he said. And be smart. Don't trust words. Trust proof. He left without another word. I stayed there a while, just staring at that stupid piece of paper. Every memory flashed through my mind, the laughs, the trips, the late nights she came home smelling like some fancy perfume I'd never bought for her. It wasn't work stress. It wasn't finding herself. It was betrayal, carefully wrapped up and tied with a pretty bow. I wanted to go home, tear into Jenna, demand the truth. But something colder, smarter, held me back. If I moved too fast, she'd lie, cry, twist it around on me. No, I needed real proof. I needed something undeniable. By the time I left that diner, my mind was made up. I wasn't going to just survive this. I was going to win. And Jenna? She wasn't going to see it coming. After that night at the diner, there was no going back. I didn't sleep. I just sat there in the dark, running through every conversation, every excuse Jenna had ever given me. Yoga weekends, empowerment retreats, spa getaways. All lies, tied up with a perfect smile. But I wasn't stupid. Kevin was right. If I confronted her now, she'd twist it around, play the victim, and I'd end up looking like the paranoid bad guy. I needed evidence. The kind that didn't leave room for arguments or tears. The next morning, while Jenna was at brunch with the girls, I made a few discreet calls. An old buddy from high school, Tim, used to work events downtown. Bouncer, bartender, occasional private security. The kind of guy who knew everybody, especially the ones who worked behind the scenes. I caught him on his break. You still got contacts? I asked. He laughed. Depends. You planning a party or crashing one? Neither, I said. I need a guy who works those exclusive events. The ones no one talks about. There was a pause, then a low whistle. Dangerous territory, man. You sure? Just give me a name. 2 hours later, I had one. Carlos. Carlos was 26, hustled catering gigs to make rent, and more importantly, worked a lot of the private, invitation-only events where Jenna and her new tribe spent their weekends. I called the number Tim gave me. Carlos answered on the second ring. His voice was cautious, suspicious. Who's this? Friend of a friend, I said. I need eyes at a party. Another pause. Then a cautious talk. I explained it quickly. I needed pictures. Nothing fancy, nothing obvious. Just proof. Proof that would stand up against 1,000 excuses. There was a long silence on the line. Then Carlos said, "It'll cost you. I'll pay. And if I get caught?" "You won't," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Be smart. Be careful. Nobody needs to know." Carlos hesitated, then finally agreed. "I'm working a private event this Saturday. Same crew you're asking about. If your girl's there, I'll get what you need." I wired half the money up front. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. That whole week, Jenna was in rare form, smiling more, humming around the house, packing a tiny bag for her weekend retreat, with way too much enthusiasm for someone claiming it was a healing workshop. Friday night, she came downstairs in a short red dress, her makeup flawless, her heels clicking like gunshots against the hardwood floor. I looked up from the TV. "Thought you were going to a yoga retreat." She grinned, adjusting her earrings. "There's a welcome dinner first. Fancy hotel. Networking stuff." Networking. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. "Have fun," I said, keeping my voice light. She blew me a kiss and floated out the door. The second it slammed shut, I exhaled slowly and pulled out my phone. Carlos had texted an address. The Monarch Hotel Ballroom C. Private event. Strict guest list. No phones allowed for guests, but the waitstaff? Different story. "Just sit tight," Carlos texted. "I'll be your ghost tonight." It was the longest night of my life. Every minute stretched out like an hour. I sat by the window, pretending to read, pretending to care about anything other than the black hole forming in my chest. At 11:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Carlos." "Got it. Sending soon." 2 minutes later, my screen lit up with photos. I stared at them, my hands shaking slightly. There she was, Jenna, laughing, sipping champagne, draped across a leather couch next to a man I'd never seen before. Way too close. Way too familiar. Another photo, her with a group of women and men, laughing, drinks in hand, someone's arm slung casually across her shoulders. No yoga mats. No empowerment speeches. Just dim lights, low music, and bodies pressed too close to be called innocent. Proof. Cold. Clear. Undeniable. I sat back in my chair, the weight of it all settling onto my shoulders. The woman I loved, the one I built a life with, wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She just counted on me being too trusting, too blind to see the truth. But she had miscalculated. Badly. I didn't text Carlos back right away. I needed a minute to breathe, to think. I opened the photos again, forcing myself to really look at them. No more pretending. No more excuses. By the time Jenna tiptoed through the front door at 2:17 a.m., smelling like expensive perfume and cheap regrets, I was already wide awake. I didn't say a word. Not yet. Because the next move? It was mine, and I was going to make it count. The next morning, Jenna acted like nothing had happened. She padded into the kitchen in her slippers, hair in a messy bun, humming some pop song under her breath. She kissed me on the cheek like she always did and started making coffee, chattering about how exhausting the retreat was, how uplifting the workshops had been. I watched her carefully. The way her hand shook just slightly when she reached for her mug. The way her smile faltered when I asked, casually, meet any interesting people? She laughed too loudly. Oh, just a bunch of women looking for inner peace. Inner peace? Yeah, sure. I sipped my coffee, nodding like I believed her. Inside, I was steel. Carlos had delivered even more photos overnight. A full set, timestamped. Jenna cozying up to different men, laughing, leaning in close, whispering things into their ears. Private smiles, private touches. Proof stacked up, frame by frame. No mistakes. No misunderstandings. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. I decided I wasn't going to confront her right away. No yelling. No dramatic fights. No smashed plates or thrown bags. No, I was going to be smarter than that. I wanted her to think she was winning. Wanted her to feel safe, untouchable, until she wasn't. The first step was patience. Over the next few days, I played the part. The trusting husband. The fool she believed she could lie to without consequence. She planned another trip with the girls, something low-key this time, she said, smiling too sweetly. A spiritual cleanse. I told her it sounded wonderful. Inside, I was already moving pieces on the board. I met with a lawyer, a sharp woman named Melissa who came highly recommended for handling messy separations. She didn't ask a lot of questions. She didn't have to. She took one look at the photos and said, "You've got enough here to make this clean and fast. You ready for that?" I was. While Jenna packed for her next magical retreat, I quietly moved half of our joint savings into a new account, set up mail forwarding to a P.O. box she didn't know about, started sorting through what was mine and what was hers without making a sound. The night before she left, we sat out on the patio, drinking a bottle of wine she'd brought home. She was laughing, barefoot, looking like the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. And I realized something. I didn't even recognize her anymore. The woman I loved was gone. Maybe she'd been gone for a long time, and I'd just been too blind to see it. The next morning, as she rolled her suitcase out the front door, she turned back and said, "Love you, babe." I smiled. Love you too. And maybe, in a way, I still did. But it didn't matter anymore. Because the second she was gone, I set the real plan in motion. I printed out every photo Carlos had sent me, neatly, carefully, put them all in a simple manila envelope. And then, I started making copies. One for her parents, who still thought I was the best thing that ever happened to their daughter, one for my lawyer, and a few more, just in case she tried to spin a different version of the story. No drama, no fights, just facts. The truth, cold, sharp, undeniable, was finally in my hands. And soon, it would be in hers too. She just didn't know it yet. Jenna got back on a Sunday night, suitcase in one hand, takeout bag in the other, big sunglasses, oversized hoodie, like a teenager sneaking in after curfew. "Hey, babe," she called, her voice a little too bright. "Brought you Thai food. Thought you might be hungry." I stood by the kitchen island, arms crossed, waiting. She set the bag down, pushed her sunglasses up onto her head, and gave me that same dazzling smile she always used when she wanted to distract me. "You wouldn't believe the weekend we had," she said, tossing her purse onto a chair. "So many good energy workshops. I feel totally reset." "Sounds amazing," I said calmly. She blinked, probably thrown off by how neutral I sounded. "You okay?" she asked, peering at me. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, better than I've been in a long time." She gave a nervous little laugh. "You're acting weird." I reached under the counter and pulled out the manila envelope, set it down gently on the kitchen island between us. Her smile froze. "What's that?" she asked, voice tight. "Go ahead," I said, nodding toward it. "Take a look." She hesitated, then slowly reached out, peeled open the flap, and slid out the photos. At first, she didn't react. She just stared, photo after photo. Jenna with her arm around some guy's shoulders, laughing like they were old lovers. Jenna clinking glasses in a dimly lit room, pressed close between two men whose faces were just a little too familiar. Jenna curled up on a leather couch, smiling up at a man whose hand rested a little too low to be innocent. She flipped through them faster, her breathing picking up. A little gasp escaped her lips. Finally, she slammed the stack onto the counter and looked at me, cheeks flushing red. "This isn't what it looks like," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Really? It's just part of the vibe. Everyone flirts a little. It's harmless," she babbled. "We're encouraged to be free, to not judge ourselves. It's all about feminine power." I almost laughed. "Feminine power," I repeated, my voice low. "That's what you call it?" She crossed her arms, eyes flashing now. You had someone spy on me? That's sick. That's controlling behavior. I stayed perfectly still, letting her rage bounce off me like rain off a windshield. You lied to me, I said, my voice even. Over and over again. She opened her mouth to deny it, to spin another story, but I cut her off. You told me you were finding yourself, healing, growing. I tapped the stack of photos with one finger. Was this part of the healing process? Her lip quivered. For a second, I thought she might cry. But instead, she sneered. You're pathetic, she spat. Spying on your own wife. No wonder I needed to get away. There it was. The truth, ugly and bare. I straightened up, feeling a strange calm wash over me. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Her face paled. You're not serious, she whispered. I'm dead serious, I said. And don't bother trying to spin it. I have everything I need. You can't just, she started. But I shook my head. I can. And I will. She stood there, breathing hard, her whole body trembling with anger. Or fear. Maybe both. You'll regret this, she hissed. I smiled. A slow, tired smile. No, I said. You will. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there with nothing but her lies and a stack of photos to keep her company. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just left her exactly where she deserved to be. Alone. For the next few days, Jenna tried everything. At first, it was anger. Long texts filled with accusations, trying to flip the script. How dare you invade my privacy? You ruined everything by not trusting me. This is on you, not me. I didn't respond. Then came the guilt trips. Photos of old vacations, old smiles, memories of a life that used to mean something. We were happy once. Don't you remember? We can fix this. We're worth fighting for. Still, I said nothing. And finally, desperation. Phone calls at midnight. Tearful voicemails. Please, just talk to me, please. But there was nothing left to say. I had already filed the divorce papers. My lawyer moved fast. She was good at what she did. By the end of the week, Jenna was officially served at her workplace. From what I heard, she made a scene, screaming, crying, knocking over a chair on her way out the door. Several people recorded it on their phones. By dinner, half the city seemed to know. The news traveled fast, especially among her precious tribe. Funny thing about friends built on lies, when the foundation cracks, they scatter fast. Maddie blocked her. Chelsea stopped answering calls. Brielle posted a not-so-cryptic quote on social media. When loyalty runs out, so does friendship. It didn't take long before Jenna was completely isolated. I found out through a mutual acquaintance that the husbands of Maddie and Chelsea had also gotten suspicious. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who hired someone to dig deeper. Within a month, there were 2 more divorces filed, and a lot of angry, betrayed men waking up to the same ugly truth. The whole circle of women collapsed like a house of cards. They weren't goddesses. They weren't empowered. They were exposed. Jenna tried to do damage control. She posted tearful videos online, talking about rebuilding her life, about being misunderstood, about mistakes made in the name of growth. But people weren't buying it. Sympathy doesn't come easy when you've been caught red-handed. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet, didn't post a thing, didn't feed the fire. I let the truth do all the talking. There was a strange peace in the silence. No drama, no shouting matches. Just the slow, steady sound of consequences catching up. Jenna moved out 2 weeks after the papers hit her desk. She didn't say goodbye, didn't even look me in the eye as she loaded her stuff into the back of an Uber. Good. We were done with words. Before she left, she did leave something behind, though. A single envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a letter, a long one. Pages of apologies, explanations, half-truths, and wishful thinking. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was lost. You were always too good for me. Maybe she thought it would change something. It didn't. I folded the letter once, slipped it into a drawer, and walked away. That part of my life was over, and I wasn't looking back. If Jenna thought the worst was over, she was dead wrong. Turns out, when you lie to enough people, the fallout doesn't just stay personal, it goes public. It started small. A few vague posts from old friends, little hints about broken trust, and lessons learned the hard way. Then the real bomb dropped. Someone, I still don't know who, leaked a few of the photos Carlos had taken. They popped up anonymously in a private Facebook group that half the town's wives belonged to. From there, it spread like wildfire. People talked. People watched. By the end of the week, Jenna's name wasn't just whispered at dinner tables, it was practically shouted. Neighbors, coworkers, parents from the yoga studio she used to love posting about. Everywhere she went, there were eyes, judging, laughing. The perfect life she'd spent years curating online, the motivational posts, the sunset selfies, the cheesy quotes about loyalty and growth shattered into pieces. One afternoon, I got a text from a buddy of mine. Bro, check this out. Attached was a screenshot of Jenna's Instagram, Her latest healing retreat photo flooded with brutal comments. Some role model. Guess the retreats had a lot of extracurriculars, huh? Should have stayed home, honey. She tried turning off comments. Tried playing the victim card again. Cyberbullying is real. Please be kind. But it was too late. The internet has no mercy for hypocrisy. Meanwhile, the husbands who found out the truth about their wives didn't go quietly. One filed a lawsuit over hidden finances. Another publicly outed his ex-wife at a charity gala, causing a minor scandal that got picked up by a local newspaper. It was chaos. And Jenna was smack in the middle of it. She tried to hold on, tried to move to a new apartment, start fresh, even hinted at launching some kind of wellness coaching business. But nobody was buying what she was selling anymore. You can't teach self-love when everyone knows you built your life on betrayal. The final blow came from a place Jenna never expected, her own family. Her parents, the same ones who used to gush about how lucky she was to have me, found out everything. Not just from me, from mutual friends, from the photos, from the whispers they couldn't ignore anymore. I heard from a neighbor that her father, the same man who once told me he'd trust Jenna with his life, refused to let her come home for the holidays that year. You made your bed, he told her. Now lie in it. I wasn't there to see it. Didn't need to be. Somehow, it was enough just knowing. There's a certain justice in watching the person who thought they could outsmart everyone suddenly realize there's nowhere left to run. And Jenna? She was out of moves. No friends. No family support. No golden image to hide behind. Just herself. And all the choices she made. About a year passed. By then, I'd moved on, not in the Hollywood way, with a new love and a happily ever after, just in the quiet sense of not caring anymore. The weight was gone. The noise had faded. Life felt steady again. Jenna had disappeared off my radar. Last I heard, she'd moved out of state, somewhere warm, maybe Mexico or Costa Rica. Word was, she had taken up with another one of the women from her old group. The two of them rented a small place and were starting over. Fine by me. I didn't follow. Didn't stalk her social media. Didn't ask mutual friends. I was done. Then one day, out of the blue, I ran into Kevin again. Same guy who warned me all those months ago. We were both waiting in line at a hardware store. He spotted me first. Man, he said, shaking my hand, you look calm. I laughed. Yeah, I sleep through the night now. He grinned, then leaned in, lowering his voice. You hear about Jenna? My stomach tightened, just a little. Old reflexes. No, I said. Didn't want to. He scratched his beard. You sure? I nodded. If she got a new boyfriend or joined a yoga cult, I'm good not knowing. He looked me dead in the eye. She got sick, man. That stopped me. Sick? He nodded slowly. Real bad. Something she picked up out there. Some kind of infection. It hit hard. Didn't respond well. One of those things people think only happens in other countries. Until it doesn't go away. I said nothing. He went on. I heard through Maddie's cousin. Apparently, she didn't catch it right away. Thought it was minor. Kept ignoring symptoms. Now she's... well, it's serious. Real serious. He didn't say what it was. Didn't have to. It wasn't the name of the illness that mattered. It was the silence that followed. A long pause stretched between us. I didn't feel joy. Didn't feel sad either. Just something colder. Something final. I guess that's the universe at work, Kevin said after a moment. You play with fire long enough. I nodded. Eventually, you stop feeling the burn. Until it's too late. We didn't talk much more after that. Said our goodbyes. Went our separate ways. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer in hand, watching the sun dip behind the trees. I thought about everything that had happened. The lies. The parties. The betrayal. The fallout. And now, the end of the story. She thought she'd reinvent herself. Thought she'd outrun the past. But some things? They catch up. Not because you didn't run fast enough, but because you never really escaped in the first place. Jenna had built a life on pretending. And in the end, even her body had stopped playing along. A year ago, if you'd told me I'd be here, standing on my own, not looking over my shoulder, not wondering what was real and what was a lie, I wouldn't have believed you. Back then, I was tangled up in it all. The love, the trust, the fear of losing something I thought I couldn't live without. Funny thing is, it wasn't Jenna I was afraid of losing. It was the version of my life I'd built around her. The version where everything looked good from the outside, even if the foundation was crumbling inside. It's easy to pretend when you're scared, harder when you finally open your eyes. The truth is, she didn't just betray me. She freed me. Freed me from years of pretending I was happy with someone who wasn't happy with herself. Freed me from carrying the weight of a marriage that had become a one-way street. Freed me from the kind of slow, steady heartbreak that sneaks up on you until one day you wake up and realize you don't even recognize the person lying next to you. I used to think healing was some grand, dramatic thing. Big speeches, big gestures, some movie moment where everything makes sense. But it's not. Healing is quiet. It's going to bed without waiting for someone to call. It's drinking your morning coffee in peace. It's looking in the mirror and knowing, truly knowing, that you didn't lose. You were saved. Jenna went her way. I went mine. No angry texts. No desperate voicemails. No dramatic courtroom scenes. Just silence. The kind of silence that says, I survived. I learned. I'm better for it. Sometimes people look at betrayal like it's the end of the world. But really? It's just the end of the wrong world. The one you weren't meant to stay in. I still think about her sometimes. Not with hatred. Not with longing. Just as a reminder. A reminder that the strongest thing you can do when someone shows you who they really are is to believe them and then walk away without looking back, without needing revenge, without needing closure. Because sometimes the best closure you can ever get is living a life where you never have to wonder again.